Hello everybody, it's Charlie Beach here. I just want to do a quick video while I have 15 minutes of battery left, 16 minutes of footage, we'll see how this goes. I wanted to do this video about 3 weeks ago when I first watched it, and I read the book about 2 weeks before I watched the film. Every once in a while a film comes out that you go, ooh, there's a good story, I think this is going to be a spectacular film. I need to read the book beforehand. As you can guess by the title, because you clicked on the fucking video, of course I'm talking about 12 Years a Slave by the British director Steve McQueen. And using his, he's used this guy before, Michael Fassbender. He's not the main actor, but he used him in the film Shame, which I thoroughly recommend to anyone. What I want to mostly talk about in this video is two things. The man, Solomon Northup, whose story is told. He wrote an autobiographical tale of his 12 years kidnapped as a slave and the inhumanity and indignity of that. But also, what does the whole idea of slavery and what can 12 years a slave mean to us as human beings? I am an amateur filmmaker. I make films. I'm making a video right now. It's in a way it's a performance. You're obviously very aware that at the end of that lens there's thousands of people watching you, judging you, reviewing you, writing comments, hating or loving or appreciating, you know, all the fucking emotions as to what you do, so I'm very aware. And since I was a little boy, I've always wanted to be, you know, filmmaking, directing, acting and so forth. And when times were tough last year, I thought, oh, I can probably get some work as an extra or something, presenting something. So I started this profile on Star Now, I did this profile on Production Base and a few other media industry things, and yeah, I've been trying to do that. But now, let me just say this outright. You may have seen on the side of buses or in the big posters the thing saying one of the best films ever made. Well, I'll go further than that. And this is a very subjective thing, like the person watching or experiencing the art is deeply connected, and what I'm about to say won't apply for everyone. A friend of mine watched it recently and goes, nah, it was okay, Wolf of Wall Street was better. But for me, for Charlie, 12 Years a Slave is the greatest film I've ever seen. It's the best film, like the cinematography, the directing, the acting, the fucking emotional story of it. The fact, and this is a fact, the fact that it's a true story. The word redemption comes to mind so strongly after watching this film. I mean, I experienced it twice. I read the book, 12 Years a Slave, and then I watched the film, 12 Years a Slave, and at the end of each, I felt redeemed by the experience of it, by feeling Solomon's suffering and how he stayed strong, and his belief in a higher power, his belief in God, and how that got him through the most incredible suffering that, you know, I think has ever been put to literature. And like, I've never been a particularly racist person, but I can understand that a lot of people are. And like, if you've ever had any preconceived notions of like black people as being inferior, which if you do, you shouldn't. But the book 12 Years a Slave, written back in 1820, I think, 1825. It's probably the most eloquent book I've ever read. The quality of the language, the expression of his ideas, the way his sentences flow, the way that you cannot put the book down, the way that you're biting your nails and you're scratching your eyes out, just trying to read what this man went through. And remember, he had a wife and kids back in New York, I think it was, but he was a very educated, civilized man, you know. And again, I've been, you know, we're talking about slaves, black slaves in America in that era. Another great author, Frederick Douglass, very militant, correctly so, militant, escaped slave. And Solomon Northup, who wrote 12 Years a Slave, he also escaped, but for completely different reasons, methods. I'm not going to put any spoilers in here, but just say that the book, I didn't cry whilst reading the book, because I think I'm more of a visual person and more of a kind of music and mood and speech and people's faces, whereas when I read a book, it's a profoundly you know, moving experience, but the abstraction of it's like a dream in my head, because I'm controlling that dream. I'm reading the words and it's interpreted as a three-dimensional, colourful dream in my head of emotions and things happening, and I can create smells and so forth. But in the film 12 Years a Slave, there's 3 definite points in the film where I completely lost it, like emotionally. It's like collapsed, because it actually happened as well. And it's even tough to talk about now. Like, I'm welling up like a, you know, like an emotional person. And I don't know how he did it, how he put up with that. And this is 7 days a week, you know. Maybe on Sundays I think the slaves got a few hours to, you know, try and recover their legs or their arms from cotton picking and carrying all the heavy stuff and the carpentry. But imagine that, 6.5 days a week for 12 years, knowing that you're a kidnapped victim of nastiness. You're getting beaten on a weekly basis. You're seeing black mothers being separated from children, and the horrifying screaming and the shrieking of separation and the suffering. There's a great line in the film where Solomon, he gets called Platt by his by the plantation owners. Platt is trying to console a woman who is bawling her eyes out 24 hours a day, correctly so. She's been forced away from her children. And she says something like, oh, you know, I want to survive or something. And then he screams, I don't want to survive, I want to live. And that is the attitude that I think we should all have in life, is that don't survive, don't settle for anything. Like, it's the language of the master. And I'd say this in the master-slave, you know, like 17th, 18th, 19th century. The master will tell you to be satisfied with your lot. And you need to be so careful, first of all, to appreciate what you have, but secondly, to never accept another man's specifications as to how your life should be, because down that slippery slope lies wage slavery, economic slavery, outright slavery. Sorry, forgive me. You know, I was chatting to a guy recently who, you know, he's a black guy. I was chatting to him, we got quite palsy. And I was like, oh dude, like, I watched 12 Years a Slave. Blah, 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 a great film, like, you'd probably love it, you know. Not because you're black, but because it's a fucking, the best film I've ever seen. And he said, yeah, you know, like, I like films like that, but I try and avoid them because I end up resenting and hating white people for a period of time afterwards. And I said, yeah, I get that, but you know, it's the redemption of this film that you go through what Solomon went through, and you realise to not complain about your first world problems. And I said to him, dude, about this hating white people thing, realise that every single race and culture throughout history has always had slaves. Chinese people had slaves, African people had slaves, Arab people had slaves, Europeans had slaves, South Americans, the Aztecs, Incas, all this fucking civilization shit. Everyone had slaves. But what race of people was it? Or what national? You know, it was the Americans and the British and the New Zealanders that first started saying this is morally repugnant. You cannot, you know, why am I getting so emotional talking about this? It's just a film, but it's what it represents for humanity. When I see something that really strikes a chord with me, I realise its importance, and I realise how these things come into your life at the right time, and la la la. And just give me a moment, let me just have a think here. I should really pause the video and edit this together, but I'm in the real mood these days to do one-take videos, so. The film 12 Years a Slave, like I've never seen a mixture of subject matter and emotional storytelling alongside almost perfect cinematography and direction. Usually you get one without the other. You get some art house film which is like a character drama, but it's like a bit, you know, fly on the wall, a bit documentary style. And this makes me, I should never be proud to be British, but a British man, and it was a British actor. I'll try and pronounce it. Chiwetel Ejiofor? Anyway, the main actor, the guy who plays Solomon Northup in the film. To get that mix of cinematography and skill together with emotional storytelling, you know you're onto gold. And alongside Gravity, that came out a bit earlier last year, I think 12 Years a Slave is going to sweep the Academy Awards into one big bag. They're going to say, shut up and take the Oscar. Like, shut up. In fact, they should just shut down Hollywood. I mean, once you've made 12 Years a Slave, I don't know how you can surpass that kind of film. But, you know, there's millions of films, and, you know, you can't compare chalk to cheese. So Gravity, you know, 3D space drama versus 12 Years a Slave, you can't. There's different types of thing. But if you remember one thing from this 11-minute video, it's to please go watch 12 Years a Slave. I don't think it's a film you could watch twice in quick succession because it's too much emotion in it. But thank you for listening to me.